Hey there folks, welcome back to another VGC video. This time I'm going to be talking about a supportive Hisuian Arcanine build that I'm working on. I think I'm really just about there. We're going for a defensive Dragon Tera. It's running Howl, it's running Will-O-Wisp, it has Citrus Berry, and he just kind of sits on the field next to monsters like Dragonite, next to Rillaboom, next to Urshifu. He clicks Howl, he clicks Will-O-Wisp, and instead of me telling you, let's just hop into some battles and I'll show you how it works. So before we get into the first match here, I just want to say I want to try something a little differently tonight. Instead of my usual live commentary as I'm actually playing the game, I'm not playing the game. This is recorded last night in a stream and I took some notes. And I just want to do a little bit more of an analytical take. So maybe I can learn something, maybe you'll learn more this way, and it'll make a little bit more sense than me like really hyper focused on the game. I don't really articulate my thoughts as well when I'm really focusing on the game. So right now you're gonna watch, I'm gonna scroll all the way back up to Arcanine. Or maybe I did it already. I might have done it already. But I'm really on the fence about bringing this Arcanine. Yeah, okay, so I'm a little ahead of myself. Because they have the Empoleon. But if you look at my team, right, I should not want to bring the Arcanine up front. So maybe I'll have it in the back, so maybe they'll have their Empoleon in the back instead. So I just led with Arcanine, because I think this is really my best lead here. It hits their entire team for at least neutral damage, very hard. And other than whatever the partner mon could be, which, yeah, so here's the issue. I'm expecting Tailwind, and I'm expecting their Flutter Mane now to take my Flutter Mane. So we get the Intimidate, does absolutely nothing for me or for them, realistically. Here comes my Booster Energy, so I know that I am at least spec'd out to be faster. But they don't have a Booster Energy, so we don't know what their item is. It could be Focus Sash, it could be Specs, likely Specs at this point, is what I'm thinking. So if I Icy Wind, that's still my best call here. It doesn't matter if they Tailwind or not, I still have to at least make a little bit of an effort to be outspeeding things. Because if I am that much faster, then maybe the -1 mixed with the ×2, you know, it might slightly balance this way out as far as speed tiers go. So now I'm really confused because they go to Terra something and it's the Flutter Mane, and I don't think they needed to do that yet. I think all they had to do was just hit Tailwind and hit my Flutter Mane with a Shadow Ball, unless they don't have Shadow Ball. I don't know what that was, but they're not clicking Tailwind, so here's an Icy Wind. It's going to hit Torn, it's going to hit Flutter Mane, and now they're going to be -1 speed. So Arcanine's going to get to move first, and I take their Queen for free. No damage on my side, and they lost likely their strongest piece, and they used their Terra all in one turn. And they don't have speed control. They go for a Bleak Wind Storm, and it misses the Arcanine slot and the Flutter Mane slot. So if that was a Tailwind, that would have been a very, very, very scary turn 1 for me. And instead they hit the Bleak Wind Storm button. I don't know why, I don't know what that was. The Empoleon's coming in a little too late here. So I know what I'm thinking. I want to hit Howl, and I want to make sure that I can one-shot the Empoleon next turn. But I don't want to Terra, because what if they Icy Wind again for more speed control? What if he's not Tailwind for some strange reason? I don't know what this guy's running at this point. I don't know if he's going to Rain Dance and hit me with like Muddy Water. I don't know. So he does Tailwind. I am still faster with my Flutter Mane, so we do hit it not so hard with the Shadow Ball, right? So likely Assault Vest. I was kind of scouting for that, but he misses the Hydro Pump, which was major, because if I had Dragon Tera and he hit it, wouldn't have mattered. But if he had hit my Arcanine, this would have been a little different endgame here. So now I'm in really, really good shape. This guy is having a very rough day, and I just kind of clean up at this point. And I think that he realizes it because he scoops. And with that scoop, we now come into game number 2. going up against Iron Hands, Ninetales, Iron Bundle, Water Ogerpon, Heatran, and Cress. So in my mind, like, Iron Hands has to come to this matchup. I don't really see a world where they don't lead Iron Hands, so that's why I stick my Rillaboom up top, because at least I'll have a little bit of fake out pressure. If I'm wrong, I can still likely move first, right? Because they don't have any kind of terrain control on that side of the team. So if I also bring in my Dragonite, right? So now I have E-Speed and Grassy Glide. So this is kind of where I'm mentally going with this. The only issue is that they could also lead Ninetales Bundle, and this lead is not really equipped for that, but it kind of is. I just have to really think a little too hard to make it work. So looking back, there were different leads. I think if I had brought Arcanine, there would have been a lot of mind games though about who's gonna Tera. If I'm gonna Tera, I mean, I likely would have to Tera at that point. But if it's Water Tera on the Ninetales, what is Arcanine really doing? If they go really anything else, I mean, Arcanine was not a good matchup for that. So mentally, this is about as good as it's going to get for me with this matchup. I think that if I can at least stop a little bit of their fake out pressure and always have speed control no matter what they do, I'll be in good shape. But here comes Ninetales Bundle. So the issue with Ninetales Bundle is they have a lot of turn ones that you really can't guess on best of one. We know that there's Aurora Veil coming, but there's a couple different ways that this could happen. This could be an Aurora Veil on Bundle. It could be an Icy Wind from Bundle and an Aurora Veil on Ninetales. So I'm starting to think, right, I don't want to get whacked really hard on the Rillaboom slot. So I want to fire Tera, but I don't want to fire Tera because at the end of the day, it does have Assault Vest and my Dragonite does not. So I need to hit that, and the main issue here is you have Ghost Tera on Bundle, you have Water Tera on Ninetales. So I don't think that they want the Ninetales to get accidentally sniped by Grassy Glide, but they could also hit Protect on that slot. So I'm in a rough shape here with my first turn. I'm really not in a good spot whatsoever. Especially that I use my Tera and they don't. So now I'm a little confused, expecting a Protect. It does not happen. Of course I get the E-Speed off first. It does a lot of damage onto Ninetales. I didn't think it was going to do that much damage onto Ninetales, but Grassy Glide does not KO Bundle. And that's a big problem, because now comes the Aurora Veil, and now I know that whatever this thing is running, I'm not going to like it. So here comes a Blizzard. I almost always get frozen, and for once in my life, I'm slightly lucky. There's no freeze, but I'm still really not in good shape. The best option that I have is a repeat and hope that I high roll my my Grassy Glide. I don't really have a good switch in here. I don't want any of my Mon in the back getting frozen. And realistically, I think if I bring out my Urshifu right now, they just hit the Tera button. You know, it's just not an issue. That Iron Bundle's way faster anyway. There's nothing I could do. They still don't Tera, which is still interesting to me, because now I get to take out the bundle. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't want Bundle on the board, but they got rid of him relatively quickly. I don't think that mattered, that crit whatsoever. I was not in good shape after the first one, and it's really okay because it was really time for Rillaboom to stop making a move. Alright, so we have to think about what the partner mon is going to be. We do send out the Urshifu here because realistically, I'm really thinking, alright, what's Urshifu going to do? We can maybe get rid of the Ninetales finally, or whatever the partner mon is going to be, as long as it's not Ogerpon. Although at that point, I would just hit the U-turn button and kind of hope for the best, but it is not, it's Heatran, so I could still U-turn that slot. Really good chance that if there is Water Ogerpon, it's about to come in. There's a really good chance that they click Tera on that slot. But in this moment, I thought I have to pick the safe play. I don't want to overread. I don't want to overcommit. I think I'm really just going to be in a rough spot if I do. So there is no Ogerpon swap, which means that there is going to be at least a little bit of damage going on here. Hopefully Fairy Tera. It's not. It's Grass Tera, which is actually really smart for this team. So they do have Protect on the Ninetales. They've been hiding that pretty much the whole game at this point. I E-speed that slot for absolutely nothing. And we're going to do just about the same with Surging Strikes into Heatran. We don't like this at all. I don't remember if Aurora Veil matters when you crit or not, but yikes, that we're in bad shape. And really anything that Heatran does right now is going to hurt a lot. And here comes Terra Blast. So from a Heatran into an Urshifu, there's just no chance. I know there's no chance. If I had remotely thought that that was the turn, you know what? No, there was nothing I could do. Never mind. That was just it. And it's okay, because I really had to read what they were going to do. If Ogerpon was there, I still had the hard swap. We still had other options. It would have been a much harder game if that was the swap. But I can work around this. I still have Dragonite. He's not frozen, thank you. So some options. I could Icy Wind for speed control, but I already outspeed Heatran. There's no way that I don't outspeed Heatran as a Dragonite. So that's a very easy aerial ace, and I really don't think that I was going to take anything out with the Dazzling Gleam. So I go for the Shadow Ball, which is still probably a roll. It's relatively bulky, that Mon, and then having Aurora Veil up just makes it way much more of a pain. Here comes the Flash Cannon, which I'm really glad it was Flash Cannon and not Heavy Slam, because I think it would have been a roll for Heavy Slam from Heatran. It really depends on how they're trained, but into this build, they're normally not a one-hit KO either. But it's okay. They don't have Ogerpon at all. They have a Cress. So now I'm like confused, but not as worried. So I have to get rid of Heatran. I think I can get rid of Heatran with a little bit of chip, and I think I need to start a little bit of chip into the Crest slot, because I don't want them to start Lunar Blessing. I don't want like the Trick Room game going up, and they're just going to outspeed the whole team. Not that there's much left at this point, but I'm just starting to think ahead a little bit more about what the end game is going to be and how I can still kind of come back. And the fact that it's a Crest made this a lot easier for me, because now they do Trick Room, they waste an entire turn of damage, they lose the Snow, they lose their Veil because they used it on a booster bundle, so that's a good reason not to do that, in case anyone was thinking about that. But I also lose my Grassy Terrain, so I am still going to Protect. Now I'm doing mental math. I'm like, oh, is it Aerial Ace is stronger? No, it's not, because now I'm stabbed from the Terra. So I just E-speed that slot. It's really the best that I could do at this point. And I need to save the Flutter Mane. I'm hoping for a little bit of chip, and maybe the Flutter can live long enough to do something next turn. But they go for Moonblast into the Flutter slot. Thank God, because that's just not going to do it. Not going to be enough. So I can hit that now with a Shadow Ball. Not a big deal whatsoever. There is going to be a little bit of E-speed chip on my end from the Rocky Helmet, so I'm worried about that, but it is in Shadow Ball range. The only issue is if they're going to get the crit or not into Flutter Mane, and they don't. So that's it. That's the game. I think if they had Ogerpon instead of the Crest, it would have been a rough best of one. I think it would have been, yeah, no, it would have been rough. I think that was a bad call, personally. But they played well with what they had, and it just really came down to Dragonite Flutter Mane. My two faves. Alright, battle number 3. We have the Tornado, the Goldfish, we have a Cheese Stick, we have a Walking Mask, we have a Salamence. One of these things is not like the others. And we have an Iron Hand, so we know Iron Hand's is standard, we know what the Torn's doing, we know what the Chi-Yu's doing, we probably know what the Cheese Stick is doing. More or less know what Ogerpon's doing, I don't know what Salamence is doing, and realistically with this team I don't care. So now I'm kind of having a moment of what I want to lead with. And I think what I should do is my normal Urshifu Arcanine lead is really strong against these kind of teams. Or even Arcanine with a little bit of Flutter Mane in the back, because you really get that speed control off. But I think at this point, I'm looking at the team, I'm looking at the Torn, I'm looking at the Iron Hands, and I'm really thinking, all right, they have to bring Fake Out. They have to bring Tailwind. So if I lead with my Flutter Mane and my Urshifu, and they do have Fake Out, right? Now they have to Fake Out the Urshifu slot. So with Arcanine in the back, it's kind of a relatively free swap for me there, which is nice. If they let me get away with it, you know. So here comes Ogerpon Iron Hands. So there's a couple options for them here, and they're all pretty scary. In their mind, they have to think that they have to worry about the Flutter Mane, then Ogerpon's gonna move, then Urshifu, unless I Aqua Jet, and then Iron Hands. So they should hit the Urshifu with a Fake Out, or they can skip that completely and hit the Flutter Mane with a Heavy Slam, which is what I normally do, because they expect the Fake Out. That's why you're running the Fake Out, and then you just nuke the Flutter. Goodbye, Flutter. So here comes Arcanine. He's going to soak up whatever's going on from the Ogerpon. I'm not worried about it. They're both -1 now. We get the Protect off, obviously, on the Flutter Mane, so we can just kind of sit there and let things happen. He does Fake Out Arcanine. Not going to do it. Ivy Cudgel, it can crit, which is an issue. That would be an issue, but I don't think that's actually going to kill anymore. So now, I don't know what I was thinking for a second. I'm thinking Rock Slide maybe to make sure that I get rid of Ogerpon, Icy Wind, so I can work on some speed tiers here, have Arcanine be moving ahead. And then I had a moment of absolute clarity. You Will-O-Wisp Iron Hands, and you ignore it for the rest of the match. So I do still have the Icy Wind here, because I want my Wisp, and then whatever the Ogerpon wants to do, he can do it after that. There's not much else I can do other than Rock Slide, but he Spiky Shields, which is smart. Smart call. He does get the Wisp on the Iron Hands, which now it's -1 and burned. Which is really good, because now my Flutter Mane is not going to die. Forgot about that. So he nails me with a crit. How did I forget about the worst part of the match? Okay, so I'm not supposed to die there, by the way. He hits me with a crit. That's awesome. And now I'm thinking, you know, just Rock Slide, whatever. It's really not a big deal. And hit Ogerpon, because what's it going to do? It could swap. I'm not worried about who he has in the back. We're going to smack his entire team with the Surging Strikes, and it's not going to be an issue. I'm not so worried about the Iron Hands, although we just watched a crit, and I know that there's another one coming, by the way. That I do remember. But, no, he sends out the Torn instead. So I hit it with the Surging Strikes. I start to cringe because I'm expecting the Rocky Helmet chip, and he's holding a berry. Spoiler alert. So there's no chip, and I really don't think that berry is going to save Torn from a Rock Slide. I hate to break it to them. But I'm just really hoping that at least I can hit the hands, at least I can flinch the hands, stop the little bit of chip that he's been doing to my team, and worry about who the last couple of Mon are in the back. Which one, of course, is Ogerpon, and we know that already. So here's the other crit, of course. Right, so he gets a Drain Punch into Arcanine. If I had Dragon Tera, that would have done, like, half of that. But that's really fine. I get to eat my own berry, and Arcanine is still in really, really good shape against this team. There's really not a lot to worry about here. So now he has to wonder what the best play is. Is he going to bring in Ogerpon, or is he going to reveal his last Mon? And he brings in the Ogerpon, which is smart, I think. Because now it's a 50-50 for him. He does not know the Urshifu item. Because he swapped the Torn, and I was able to actually hit it with the Rock Slide and take it out, he never got to saw who moves ahead of who, other than the Urshifu moving in front of Arcanine, which is supposed to be doing that anyway, realistically. So I swap out Dragonite. I don't want Arcanine getting hit. I want the -1 on the Ogerpon again if anything goes wrong. I'll even take -2 on Iron Hands if I need to. It's really not a big deal. And he hard commits the Ogerpon, and I don't think this was the right choice. I think if he had stayed as a half grass type, he might have lived and got a little bit of damage off, but no, this is way too much damage. There's just no chance. I really, you know what, that might not have mattered. I don't know. I don't know if that mattered at that point, but that just put him in a really, really bad shape. And here comes the Drain Punch into Dragonite for nothing. Absolutely nothing. We just naturally just resist that as a flying type, and it's super not a big deal. So now he has a -1 burned Iron Hands and whatever the last mon's going to be. And the last mon could potentially be an issue, but because I'm Scarfed on Urshifu, I think I'm relatively safe here. Mostly okay. It takes him a second. He's really thinking hard about what the win con is with this last mon. And it really makes me think that he was running Specs on this thing. Specs or maybe Scarf, I don't know. But he really wanted to stop and think about what he was going to lock into. So I want to hit that slot. There's really not much I want that thing to do. But I know that no matter what the item is, it's going to outspeed Dragonite. And I think if I live, I would like to get Tailwind up, and then that way Arcanine has nothing to worry about at all. So we hit the Chi Stick. It just barely hangs on, which is so insane. And he uses Power Gem into Dragonite for like most of his health. This is so impressive. This is not a Solfast Dragonite. This is my Amulet Dragonite, and he just does not care. So a Wild Charge into Urshifu is not going to do it. I think, honestly, really needed that crit now, and it was a little late for that, because I think the burn would have just stopped it completely. So now that I know that I outspeed the Goldango, it's not a threat anymore. It's not an issue. We have to get rid of the hands. I can't afford any more crits from that thing. It's just going to cost me the battle at this point. So I double into it. I know that a Surging Strikes is not going to kill it, like remotely, but it should do about half, and we do have Stomping Tantrum, which is actually super effective. So I'm hoping that whatever I do here with Surging Strikes is either going to take it into range, or after Stomping Tantrum, the burn damage is what's going to take out Iron Hands. And luckily, Stomping Tantrum does the work for me. So now we're in really, really good shape. I'm almost convinced that he's locked into Power Gem. He uses it again. It's the right option. There's no Shadow Ball, or I likely would have switched into Shadow Ball unless he thought Arcanine was coming out. I don't know. But there's not much you can do. We send Arcanine back out for -1 on the Goldango, which means absolutely nothing to anyone. But with Tailwind up, and with the Scarf on Urshifu, there's nothing to worry about, and the battle's cancelled. Alright, here's the rental code for the team. I'll have a Pokepaste in the description. We have Rillaboom, who's new to the channel. We have Urshifu. This specific build is new to the channel. And we have Arcanine, which of course, last time I used it was not this build at all. So this is really cool. I'm very happy with this team. If you use it, let me know. If you like it, let me know.